When read your history, many of us come from up there in the north, coming down here.
Sources: Newton Baxter Ghormely, January 1, 1918. Thesis presented to the Department of Education, University of Southern California. Kimpa Vita, the Mother of the African Revolution by Ne Kunda Nlaba, taken directly from academic professor in the DRC. Lanny Ross, B.A. History and Africana Studies, Graduate Studies in Social Science Education. Bantu people are Israelites of the southern kingdom of Judah. The Bakongo people primarily descended from Israelites who migrated to their current location in the Congos and northern Angola. They left in 2 waves of migration. These migrations took place over the course of 1,000 years. Once established in their permanent residence, they went on to found one of Africa's greatest civilizations. The first took place in circa 650 BC when King Manasseh of Judah sent a massive amount of troops to live along the Kemet-Kush border, Egypt, Nubia. This was to help assist the kings of the 26th dynasty in their wars with Kush. Remember, before the times of the Gentiles, Egypt and Judah were unified against Kush and Assyria. Once the Chaldeans began to assert themselves, all 4 groups became unified against them in a failing effort. They were later joined by refugees around circa 590 BC who fled the kingdom of Judah under pressure from the Chaldeans. This is documented in the Tanakh, 2 Kings chapter 25 verses 21 to 26, Jeremiah chapter 43 verses 1 to 7. Later, when the Persians took over Egypt in 525 BC, more Jews came with them. The 2nd century B.C.E. letter of Aristeas records that large numbers of Jews had come into Egypt with the Persians, and in an earlier period still others had been sent to Egypt to help Psammeticus in his campaign against the king of the Ethiopians, Nubians. It appears that following Psammeticus's campaign against the Nubians, a Jewish outpost was left to guard the southern part of Egypt. Psammeticus had enlisted the help of several foreigners in his army. The second migration wave took place circa 200 BC during the Greek Ptolemaic rule of Judea. These forefathers of the Bakongo Israelites began to grow tired of Ptolemaic rule and culminated with the high priest Onias II not paying the taxes of the Ptolemy III Euergetes. With the onslaught of the Fourth Syrian War taking place in 222 BC, the second batch of the Bakongo fathers left Judea, migrating through Kamata, Egypt to Kush, Nubia, Meroe, and joined with their brothers from the first migration wave. From here, both parties migrated to Sheba, Axum circa 300 AD, and from there to Zimbabwe, leaving Axum circa 500 AD due to the pressures put on Jews, Israelites at the time in the region by Sunday Christian King Caleb. Once in Zimbabwe, they settled amongst an already established civilization. Later, more immigration from Bantu Israelites to Great Zimbabwe along with rapid urbanization caused explosive population growth. This would cause the forefathers of the Bayongo to once again migrate. This time, to Kalahari Desert and from there to their current locations. Once settled, they would establish the Kingdom of Congo near 12 rivers with 12 clans representing each of the 12 tribes. Choosing the Congo meaning assembly, unity, kingdom, archangel, truth, etc. Considering also the customs and language of the Bantus, which are clearly Hebrew, the contention has been made that the extraneous element of the Bantu was derived from the tribes of Israel, which were first carried away to Babylon as related in the scriptures, and afterwards, migrated through Egypt into equatorial Africa, and, through mingling with native tribes, upon whom they imposed much of their own religion and customs, gave rise to the peoples now known as Bantu. Oral history of the Ba-Congo people points to their migration from the land of Canaan and Egypt, being instructed by the archangel Congo, to leave, and to lead the Bena Congo, children of Israel, to their current location where they founded the Kingdom of Congo, divided into 12 tribes representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Taken from the Ba-Congo sacred book Makongo. Another account of migration from Egypt to Zimbabwe, meaning sanctuary temple, and being led by the prophetess Mama Mbingala to the Kalahari desert where they founded the Kingdom of Congo.
That's why there can't be Mpofu here. Dalimpofu is not here. There can't be Dalimpofu here who says, I don't want Zimbabweans. The Mpofus are in Zimbabwe. The Mpofus are in Zimbabwe. You cannot come here and want to use language and to divide us. Medicine in Shona is Mushoga. Medicine in Venda is Mushoga. We are one thing, we speak one language, the difference is dialect, and therefore we cannot pay attention on dialect. You know why they hate me? Because I'm teaching you these things. They want you to remain dumb because without brains they can control you. But when we are united as Africans, no one can come between us and divide us. So let us fight until we know who we are. Because what they did was to take our identity. Where these Jews claim they come from, that's where we come from. Actually, the original Jew is black. But let me leave that debate. We'll deal with it some other day. So before you speak very bad of the Jews in Brazil, you must check you are next to Mushabi, Mole, Bai Musad. So you must be careful. You ought to know who you are to avoid being manipulated by those who thrive through divide and rule.
The video continues. Before coming to the conclusion of today's clip, I'd also like to share with you a clip depicting the defacing of ancient biblical icons that were depicting Jesus Christ and his disciples as being people of the black race or Negro race. This covering up was in an attempt to fool the black peoples of the world that the white images that were portrayed were depicting the real Messiah, in an attempt to glorify the white race and also make we blacks or other peoples of the world be easily accepting to the theology and falsehood and false narratives that were being brought about by the West. So I'd like to share with you, and I hope you enjoy.
Son of God, True Color, Pseudepigrapha, Hellenistic period, and 1 Maccabees 3:48. So, first let's talk about the Jesus True Color. As we know in the Bible it says Jesus have woolly hair. We can find that in Daniel 7 verse 9 and Revelation 1 verse 14. The dictionaries of 1916 defined woolly hair as meaning a Negro. They removed it from modern day dictionaries because they wanted to hide the information so we wouldn't know that Jesus looks just like us. As we know, the only people on the earth who have woolly, kinky, nappy hair are those of the black race. We are the only people on the earth that have hair that resemble a lamb. Let's read in Revelation 1 verse 15. It reads, "And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters." John compared Jesus' feet to fine brass when it is burned in a furnace. The picture I am showing is just example to show you what Jesus looked like. So basically, Jesus' skin is that of black people. So what this verse is indicating is Jesus is very black. This is a 16th century depiction of the vision of John the Divine, located at Patmos, Monastery of St. John. Let's read in Ezekiel 40 verse 3 to 43 verses 2. "And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man, whose appearance was like the appearance of brass. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel came from the way of the east. And his voice was like a noise of many waters. And the earth shined with his glory. Brass is skin color. When you burn brass, It gets darker. Daniel, John, Ezekiel wrote down this information for us to understand it. When you look at these white images, they don't have woolly hair. For those who don't know what pseudepigrapha is, I will tell you the definition. Pseudepigrapha are falsely attributed works. Text whose claimed author is not the true author, or a work whose real author attributed it to a figure of the past. Let's take a look at the third book of Maccabees. As we know, the first book of Maccabees was written in the time period around the late 2nd century BC. So, both first and second book of Maccabees was written around the same time period. The third and fourth book of Maccabees was written in different time periods, not by the same author. I will put a link down in the description to the other books. There are more books of the Bible, but the Europeans taken books out the Bible. The time period it was in was the Renaissance period. Now let's talk about the Hellenistic period. So as we know, this period takes place during the time period in 323 BC. This period takes place in Maccabean revolt. As we know, in this time period, Alexander wanted to Hellenize the Jews. I will give you the definition of what Hellenize means. Hellenization is a term used to describe the spread of ancient Greek culture, and to a lesser extent, language over foreign peoples conquered by Greece or in its sphere of influence. It is mainly used to describe the spread of Hellenistic civilization during the Hellenistic period. The result of Hellenization was that elements of Greek origin combined in various forms and degrees with local elements. So, in other words, they want you to follow their customs. When you read in Maccabees, it explains everything. That is why they've taken Maccabees out the Bible. It gives a whole history. We will read in 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, 1-10, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chedium, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Verse 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him. Verse 5. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died. Verse 8. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. Verse 9. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Verse 10. And there came out of them a whipped root Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So, that is why this book been taken out the Bible. 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. This picture I am showing is an example. As we know, in the Renaissance period, white people start turning black images into white images. This is an example of iconoclasm. I will give a definition on what is iconoclasm. Iconoclasm is the social belief in the importance of the destruction of icons and other images or monuments, most frequently for religious or political reasons. People who engage in or support iconoclasm are called iconoclasts, a term that has come to be figuratively applied to any individual who challenges cherished beliefs or venerated institutions on the grounds that they are erroneous or pernicious. Out of all the Gentiles, white people been doing this the most. As we know, black people ruled all throughout Europe. Black culture was wiped out when the Caucasians, rose to power, and began spreading their Greek culture over the nations they conquered. This destruction occurred during the Hellenistic period in the 4th century BC. Between 334 BC and 70 AD, the white people removed all from history and books and changed the way they look and made them white. Many icons were destroyed while many others survived. They repainted these pictures to hide the true identity of the Israelites. Day of Judgment shows white people going into captivity. Revelation 13. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. The wall paintings healing the paralytic man, which can be found at the walls of the church at Dura Europos, Syria, dating back to around 235 AD. Pope Alexander wanted every painting depicting a black Jesus destroyed. Then he wanted to recreate Jesus to make him white, so he made Leonardo da Vinci recreate Jesus using his son Cesare Borgia as the model for the new paintings. However, not all of the original images were defaced. Though a number of the surviving paintings were whitewashed, icons are sacred images that portray Christ, the Virgin Mary, the saints, and historical scenes like the crucifixion of Christ.
This is the African Servant. Please do subscribe and click on the notification bell icon, and also please share this video to at least pass on this information, so that at least other people can receive the same information that you have received. Thank you. Till we meet again.